This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
All right, Baba Gregory, you're on the air. Welcome back to We All Be. You got some very important news.
Yeah, just thank God for what you do, and it's incredible for the listeners that can see you everywhere we go. All the researchers, you there.
That's right.
So you get in your car and drive down and catch the story, so you can compare it to the other network stories. But you there on the ground, and I thank you for that. It makes it very important, especially the times we're going through now. And I don't think we can survive it, just because this is just some thug punks doing all this stuff. But this is the government, man. When I look at what happened in everybody I see that I know no research, when I bumped into you, what I tell you, I said, keep your eye on South Carolina, because it's bigger than we think.
Mm-hmm.
And when Scott got shot there in the back, I said, wow, man, that's the same area, spot that the Civil War started. Is somebody trying to tell us something? Mm-hmm. And so I had one person call me up and said, what can we look for? And I said, go to South Carolina. It's in a hotel room. And stay there till it happens. He called me back and said, well, it didn't happen. I said, just watch it. So if we go back to the night, and the great thing about you out there, I go around and I talk to people and see people, and they just think it's a funny comic. And I'm getting information from them, because they see things different. They don't see the whole picture, but that psychic that black folks have, they see it. Mm-hmm. So when I asked about, South Carolina, I got off a plane, and the minute I found out it was going on, I went right, checked in a hotel, and got me a TV so I could watch the trick news.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk to people, and I found out what's the black paper there in Charleston?
Yeah, in Charleston.
Charleston, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Charleston Chronicle.
The Chronicle, yeah. Well, I talked to some folks that told me that they didn't get the news. You know about it. They didn't get the news about that till what, midnight?
That's right.
And they're right there in the town.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant the white press wasn't running anything? Or the white press didn't know it. One of the interesting things about in your town, the press know what's going on because they have wire service built into police. Well, if you say fire at such and such a place, they don't have to wait for somebody to call them. They there. So the fact that they didn't get a call, the black press didn't hear about it till they saw it on the white TV, right?
Yes, sir.
And that means they didn't run there to what, midnight something?
Mm-hmm.
That means for 3 hours they had it all to themselves. But I keep wondering, first, just the church is so big and famous. People would be the path to there, less long a massacre, right?
Right.
And so what you're looking at is when we settled down and got to watching it, you see this little frail white boy, and when I saw him and looked in his face, and I said, shit, if he did it, my mama did it. Huh?
Mm.
And why did I say that? Well, the Manchurian candidate, when they shot Kennedy, there was a great movie come out about the Manchurian candidate, about how they can brainwash you and get you to kill folks and to do things. And so it was so close to what had happened to Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And people was reading it and looking at it and halfway suspecting it, that they got Frank Sinatra and them to pull the movie on them for maybe 40 years and paid them millions of dollars. So right before that 40-year period was over, Denzel Washington comes out. It's a movie the same name, The Manchurian Candidate. Mm-hmm. For all those young people that wasn't born then or heard the word. But that was a different one. So everybody thinks they've seen the Manchurian Candidate, but Denzel, not Denzel ain't part of it. He's actor. He just take a script and go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you that want to see what's going down now, go back and look at the real Manchurian Candidate and then add 30 years onto it and know how they've advanced the technology. And so when I'm looking at him, and you don't know what's going on till you start hearing the trick news come out, and you just put it together. One, he went into the church. It happened in the church. What? 9 people massacred, right? Then there's 2 things to watch. First, later. See, you can't talk the story when it first happened and then try to follow it 3 days later. Because they busted him, what, the next day or 2 days?
Oh, the next day.
Okay, now, nobody's asked him, not even the press, where did he spend the night? That's a very important question. So that means, did he have help or not? Where did he spend the night? That's very important. He left there. He went somewhere. You understand what I'm saying?
That's right.
And now the other thing, now let's get back to the church. The church is one of the most important black churches in the history of churchdom. You know why? Because that church wasn't just a church. That church was one of the foremost against slavery, up your butt churches in the world. The founder was D.C. and Morris Brown. D.C. was planning to overthrow slavery.
Right.
And so they killed D.C. and 16 others because of that. But Morris Brown now, they didn't kill him. He ended up with his name on one of the foremost black colleges in the world, Morris Brown. So now the question has to be, we know they called it a failed uprising because some black slave talked.
Right.
Was it him? Is that why not only did they not kill him with Dizzy, but he ended up getting his name, college named after him, Morris Brown. But that needs to be explained, somewhere. And so Juneteenth, I had to explain to a couple of my grandchildren that Juneteenth is celebrated June 15th, 16th, and 17th, and it's celebrated in different parts, different days. Because the story is that they gave the slave owners a brief suspension that, okay, if the slaves walk out now, your crops won't get picked. So we're giving you the right now to hold on to your slaves until the crops are picked. And so in Charleston, they celebrated Juneteenth on 15th, 16th, and 17th. Well, the other day, that mess just happened on June the 17th. Oh, a coincidence. Come on, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we look at 9 people killed. 9 people massacred. Now we find out as the film started getting released that he was in the church. They saw him. We saw him. That was film owned by the church. So if you're going to show me him in the church, and that's church film, how come y'all didn't show me the massacre? It's just black folks film. Then I see the car on the garage, outside in the parking lot. They never showed me a piece of film of him getting out the car, going in, or him coming back, getting in. Come on, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we go back and we look at him. They say he loaded 5 times. Well, where he had the gun. You see, white folk can be convinced that black folks is that stupid. And black folk can be convinced that we're that stupid.
Mm-hmm.
He went in there and talked to those folks, sit with them for an hour. You didn't see no guns. You didn't see nothing bulging on here. Hmm? You didn't see. And let me tell you, white folks and black folks that have never been to a Baptist church or a Christian church, they guard the pastor more than they would Jesus if he can. So how'd he get in with all them guns? And nobody sits next to the pastor unless it's his wife or his family. How did that redneck get to sit next to the pastor? Huh?
Right.
That's really strange. And so now we're looking at more information coming out. They said, they stopped him in Shelby, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it was a traffic stop. Oh, it was a traffic stop. Everybody looking for him. And you just have to look up on the traffic stop and find him. Well, you remember one of the worst acts of terrorists in the history before all this stuff now was the Oklahoma Federal building. And the guy they said was involved with that is Terry Nichols.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we look at the whole Terry Nichols thing, he was arrested the same way for a traffic violation. So they take him to jail. And the next thing you know, he's the one. And so let me just explain to you who Terry Nichols is. He's in jail now. And the story that runs one of the most conservative papers in the world is the Washington Times of Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, April the 22nd, 1998. Headline, FBI paid mortgage on Terry's home. The FBI made mortgage payments on Terry Nichols' home after he was arrested and before he was convicted on conspiring to bomb the Oklahoma City Federal building. Court documents show, so there ain't no punk on the street. Now, this is important. A Justice Department spokeswoman said she did not know immediately why the government was making payments, nor did she know how much. Now, this is very important, because this is the government agency. Didn't just say, that's not wrong. No, we never did that. She said, well, yeah, they did it, but I don't know why they was making payments, nor how much. The mortgage payments was disclosed in a court finding Monday by Nichols' lawyer, who argued that client does not have sufficient assets to pay the fine or restitution as prosecutors want. Well, they haven't had a trial. So is this they still talking about? Well, anyway. So now, Terry Nichols is brought to trial, sentenced, then executed. Now, let's ask a question. Everybody was duped into believing this was some strange kind of thing, but nobody questioned it. They would have questioned it had this story came out, the FBI would have had to ask why is the FBI paying the mortgage? Huh? Mm-hmm. The Manchurian candidate. He's a mind who's been manipulated. Now you start looking at the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're going to say those cameras that took the pictures of him in the church. Those was church cameras. So if you can film him in the church, then how come you didn't film the massacre? Or is there something tricky about that? Huh? Or is that a question they just were so sure wasn't nobody going to ask? Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, we saw the pictures of his car on the parking lot. Those come from church cameras. How come we didn't see nobody getting out the car or nobody going in the car when he left? Now, let me skip and say, you know, if he left, how come we didn't see him showing him leaving the church after the massacre? How come we didn't see blood on him? It's very important. So now we go back into the church, and we saw him, and now they tell us he loaded up the big gun 5 times. That's not credible when you look at the pictures of him. He's not bloated. Oh, they tell us he had maps of road. That little redneck don't even know how to spell road. He don't even know what road is. That's some government agent. And so now we're looking at what went down there. And we said, hey, man, something is not right. And when y'all look at this picture, you don't look like that vicious killer. Oh, I'm sure the government could convince you of anything. Mm-hmm. And so now we sit back now and watch all the information come out. Information of people he talked to. There's a story broke today. So he had this one friend he hadn't seen in 5 years, and all at once he stowed up mysteriously. And started talking about how much he hated black folks. He said when he knew him before, he never had that type of rhetoric. So that's the Manchurian candidate. That's what they pump into your head. And so where did he spend that night after the massacre? And then we go back to the Charlotte paper down there, the black paper. And how come the editor never heard about the shooting till midnight? And so now when the word goes out, all you got, every newspaper that's worth their weight has one dial on the crime report. So the police don't get the crime from NBC, CBS, ABC. So the police don't get the crime. Right. They get it off the police blotter. So now is the editor of the Charlotte.
Charleston.
Charlotte. I'm sorry.
The Charleston Chronicle.
Huh?
You talking about the Charleston Chronicle, or you say the Charlotte or the Charleston?
Oh no. I meant the Chronicle.
Yeah, the Charleston. Yeah, the Charleston. Yeah, I get confused like that too. It's close together. Yeah.
Yeah. So Charleston.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So did the news go out before midnight? And if it didn't, what were they doing? Those 3 hours it happened. Where was the young lady that he let live? Did she report it? Huh?
Yes, sir.
And so the other thing is he said he was talking to her and said she's going to let him live. He's going to commit suicide. Well, they're already setting that up. That he already told somebody that he's going to commit suicide. And he wanted her to tell the story. Okay, so why did she wait there? Hey, you said about once you get out. And then she says, when he was reloading the gun, which he did by the time she asked him, why are you doing this to these people? Are you crazy? He's killing everybody. You want to ask him a question?
That's it. That's good.
So when we stop and look at it, we could stop right there. Now, he says, well, it's a hate crime. He hates black people. Well, now, that helps people cover it up because now the FBI do stuff dirtier than that would make Hitler blush. Y'all go on and thinking they're the greatest, they're nothing but filth, and they'll out the Nazis, okay?
Mm.
And so now he said, you tell the people for me. Well, how come you didn't tell them since it happened at 9 o'clock? Some people said there that they never heard the story until noon. Now, we have to admit we never saw no ambulance coming in or going out. We never had to press people to the hospital or the coroner. So none of that. And it comes back on the next day, and the press didn't ask one question. Looking at the pictures, he's not that bloated around the stomach. Where do you have the guns?
Right.
Where was his guns? And then he's going to load 5 times? Now they said he's sitting in the church next to the minister. Black folks know. He said it was 9 minutes. So now we have to ask some serious questions of how come the press never saw the ambulances or the hearses taking the people away? How come they didn't go in the church and show us all the blood on the floor? And so now, as we look and listen, because every day they're going to add something new to convince you that he's the one. And these shows like you had to go on, well, they got to counteract everything that said. So now they come up and sign a note or a letter, something. And so when you look at the church, them white folks so scared of that church because the only reason they couldn't pull off the rebellion is because somebody told.
Right.
Now, the Juneteenth festivity pertaining to black folks coming out of slavery. And Juneteenth runs from June the 15th, 16th to 17th. That just happened, the shooting, on the 17th. Now we find out he had maps of flying to Rhodesia on him. Redneck, he don't know what Rhodesia is. Never heard of it. And so now you got everybody coming forward to, oh, we got to heal the city and heal the state. Well, first thing you do is take that Confederate flag down.
Right.
Imagine Hitler and then Nazis have a group that loved them so much they want to put the swastika on Germany, and they won't let them. But in South Carolina, they let them put the Confederate flag in the state capitol. And then they all sitting there with them black preachers praying, talking about heal, and the black preachers will say, wait, ho. The first thing you do to heal is take that damn flag down. The same way that a decent German would tell you, take that swastika off the Capitol, huh? And black folks haven't asked for nothing, huh?
Yes, sir.
They always pimp them when something happens. Ask your people to behave. Pray for the ones that, we're going to raise some money to feed the ones, the families of the ones. And so that's where we are. We go any further? Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. I want to know, how were they so certain that the suspect was 21? Because when it first came out, they acted like they didn't know who this person was or if he was wearing a helmet or a wig. But they were certain that he was 21.
So, one of the things they didn't know. They just put stuff out there. And then you look at his birth certificate, it might be true. Or we don't know what they have doctored. Huh? They just put it out there. And it gives the press to feed stuff that they can't contact nobody to check it because of the lateness of the evening. And so they'll come up now since they heard you say it. And they say, oh, when he's on his well, he lost his driver's license. What's the girl that kidnapped the Revolutionary Army, the billionaire?
Oh, yeah, Patty Hearst.
Patty Hearst.
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning, right? They came by and knocked on the door, and she and her living lover was living together, right?
Okay.
She came to the door, and they snatched her. Kidnapped. And then they decide they're going to rob stores in the Bay Area, of which 2 security guards was killed.
That's right.
They got away. And then they said they knew it was her because she dropped her driver's license. I said, wait, hold on. And so I would get up on stage and say, oh, man, I got to get me a white woman. They said, oh, weird. I said, you see the story where Patty Hearst was, they didn't catch her, but they know she was at the robbery where the people got killed because she dropped her out. I said, no, wait. She got kidnapped at 3 o'clock in the morning. Give me a weird, strange white woman that sleeps with her driver's license. She got out of bed, huh? And opened the door.
Right.
And so, you see, every now and then they make a mistake because they're not great minds. We're great minds. The people that listen is great minds. They might not know what's going on, but if they're not government agents calling in to trick it, they're asking honest questions.
That's right.
And you and our job is to see through it because most of them didn't see it. Okay?
That's right.
And so, in some kind of way, that have to be unwind out.
And also, I like to add, Brother Gregory, is the fact that they caught him in Shelby, North Carolina, and I just came across this by accident. I guess I was, magic glasses, whatever. I found out that Shelby, North Carolina, is the birthplace of Thomas Dixon Jr., the guy who wrote The Klansman, that was the inspiration for the movie The Birth of a Nation, which came out in 1915, which led to the reemergence of the KKK.
So you look at what was it you said again?
Like Thomas Dixon Jr., he was born there. He was the author of The Klansman, which was the inspiration for The Birth of a Nation. That's right, Shelby, North Carolina. Okay. And he also died on April 3rd. And they saying this guy was born April 3rd, 1994. Thomas Dixon Jr. died April 3rd, 1946.
Now watch this. The Birth of a Nation. The Klan was almost bankrupt, right? Right. Lynchings was at point zero. And then the stock market crashed.
That's right.
And he called for a march on Washington, D.C. And they brought almost over 1 million people. Right. It was the economy. And then somebody said, oh, you can start hating them again. That'll ease the blow. That's what that was about. The Birth of a Nation. The Klansman was out of business, bankrupt. And it was the economy, just like now. Except this one now, they got a different piece of people that they got to take out. And that's what they're getting ready to do now.
And also, let me ask you, brother, I'm sorry about the Gregory.
I can hear you.
I want to ask you another question.
Yes.
I realized, a friend told me, Dr. Issa, that this year marks also the 100th anniversary of the Fraternal Order of Police. They also started in 1915. Any thoughts upon that? Like, what can we do? I mean, there's a lot of police killings this year. I mean, I think about over 300 so far. Yeah. Is there anything we as black people can do?
No, you don't qualify. You can't make the store. You don't want to use your money to withdraw it, to boycott it. And we ain't asked white folks to help us do nothing. White folks would do a whole lot of stuff if we asked on it. But then who you going to get to call it? Sharpton is probably the most powerful black person maybe in the history of America, because he's on 5 days a week on a white TV network, and then he's on 5 days a week with stations across the country on black radio, 3 hours a day. But they can't call for nothing because they too tied. I don't say this negative. They too tied in to the white establishment that would be hurt if you called for a boycott of Christmas. So I'm saying that's what somebody need to do, not badmouth them.
Right.
Urban League, and we wouldn't be where we was now if it wasn't for them. Yeah, they got papers now where Thurgood Marshall was a government agent.
That's right.
Okay? And it's documented, can't lie about that. It's a violation of the universal God for you to be tricking, even if somebody been for us, something like that. Okay? And so I would just say that when we look at it, it happened so far back, so long ago, before now. Let me show you. Let me just ask you something. Do you remember a couple of years ago when 2 Africans going to what's the black school in Baltimore?
Morgan. Yeah.
And one started eating the other one. Remember that?
Yes, sir. I remember that.
And for those of you that don't, you can just push it up, the cannibalistic thing that started. And then we find out it wasn't at the school. They lived 30 miles outside of it. And then 2 days later, a Miami cop killed a man who was eating another man. Until when he looked up at him and the blood dripping. Well, those are zombies that's created. You know, the Manchurian candidate. No, all y'all do is punch it up for yourself. Nobody ever followed up that story. The government got gas that they can go into an arena of 100,000 people and drop it. And everybody at that football game was turned into a cannibal. That's where they are. That's the stuff, all the stuff you saw in the movies, they perfected it. Huh?
I'm just trying to figure out, people, they always come to me and want me to ask you questions, and there's so much stuff going on right now. I know that, what's interesting about South Carolina that people don't understand is that, it was one of the original 13 colonies.
Right.
And a lot of the major revolutionary wars were fought in South Carolina. The turning point for the Revolutionary War started in South Carolina. Right. And like you said, the Civil War started there. And also, Lee Atwater is from, I believe, Columbia, South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, but he's from South Carolina. Yeah. And you're talking about somebody that was interesting because this guy played blues guitar. He played, he cut albums with B.B. King. He owned a barbecue restaurant. He was on Howard's board of directors, I believe, at one point. Right. So the students got him out. So this is what it's like this state produced somebody like him. Yep. And it's a very African state. 40% of enslaved Africans came through Charleston Harbor. And Bumpy Johnson is from Charleston as well, too, though. Right, yes. Harlem Godfather. So what do you think about that? Like those type of extremes from that one state?
I had never put my mind to it, but there was extremes from a lot of states of African Americans.